Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I am Caspian and I read a lot of books, mainly from the library. So I'm gonna do something a little bit different today because I have a library book that I read that needs to be returned today. And that's the only book I've read since I last updated you, or it's the only book I've finished since I last updated you. And yeah, so I'm gonna throw in some other books in this and that it was from my latest library haul. So last week I went to the library because I had some books that was on reserve and I needed to collect them or on hold. I don't know the English term for it properly, but I had reserved them and it was finally my time. So I went there and picked them up and yeah, I'm gonna do that today. So that's what this is about, and these are all the books I'm gonna talk a little bit about. So I'm mainly gonna talk about the book that I have read, and then I'm gonna shortly just talk about the books that I've hauled, and I will probably also mention them in my upcoming video for my TBR for April. So this is the book I have read in the past few days, 5 days to be more exact, because 5 days is how many days I had left when I picked it up before it needed to be returned. So I calculated I had to read 90 pages a day to get through it until I was done, and I've done that like more or less. I finished it, but I read the bulk of it 2 days ago, you can say. So this is An Academy for Liars by Alexis Henderson, and it's my first book by this author. I have since discovered that she has 2 more. So I was kind of hesitant to read this because when I put myself on the waiting list at the library, it had been recommended by more than one YouTuber and they loved it. It was good, and most of all it felt like something I could enjoy. And so I put myself on the waiting list, and then when it came to be my time to read it, I had seen other YouTubers and Instagrammers and whatnot say how much they disliked it. So I became a bit hesitant. I was like, okay, am I really gonna enjoy this, and is it worth my time right now? Is it what I want to do? So, but I decided to give it a go, and I'm glad I did. It's not a 5-star. I'm giving this 4 stars. Okay, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about why. So, can I please put it like so I don't have to hold it? Is that good enough? So, An Academy for Liars by Alexis Henderson. So, okay, so this book is about Lennon. Lennon is a woman, but she's so frustrating, you guys. She's so frustrating. So Lennon has, in the beginning of the book, she is in a relationship with Wyatt, and he used to be, I think he's a bit older than her. We find out in the book that she has a tendency to be drawn towards men that are slightly older, in always like a kind of power position towards her. And so Wyatt and her have recently become engaged, and she, at the engagement party, so this is like in the first chapter or something, at the engagement party, she wonders where he's gone to, together with his best friend, and who's a woman, and she scours his like big house. It's a big house that they live in together, and so she scours the house to find him, and when she finds him, he is literally on top of his best friend, and naturally Lennon feels very betrayed, so she just kind of runs out of there. She runs out of there, takes his car, and just rides away from there. And she ends up at this parking lot with a phone booth, and the phone booth starts ringing. And when she picks it up, it's a voice, but there are many voices in the voice. It's like a voice that represents all of the people she's ever met in one voice, that tells her that she has been accepted for the next stage in the interview process to start at a school called Drayton Academy, or Drayton College. And she's like, okay, either I'm going insane or I'm going insane, and either way it's worth a shot. So she gets the address and she goes there. It takes her 8 hours to go there by car, and she ends up getting to this house with this guy called Benedict, who is the interviewer. And long introduction short, she ends up going to this college. And this college is a college for persuasionists. So this book has a magical element in the way that I don't know if I want to call it, well, there is a magical element. So I would call it like magical realism more than fantasy. I don't think this is fantasy, and I don't think it's actually called fantasy when I checked my app for it. I didn't check Goodreads, but I checked another app that I'm using. I think it said magical realism and the dark academy. So the magic is that they use their mind to persuade people. So they use some kind of telepathic power to make people do whatever they want them to do. And this book is filled with moral qualms, and it's just, I think that there's a Christian girl in this book, and she says it the best, that is it good or evil that we do here? I'm not religious in any capacity. I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. But I really could appreciate that girl's, introspection about what are we really doing here? Is it good or evil, or nothing of the sort? Should we really be doing it, etc. I really enjoyed that part more than I actually thought when doing it. It's something that stuck with me when I finished the book. So it's more or less about Lennon's life at this school, this college, where she's supposed to be for 2 years, and it's also about her relationship to her professor, her advisor. That's called Dante, or Dante. I don't know how you pronounce that in English. Dante. In Sweden we say Dante, so I don't know. It's like so it's about their relationship, and how he tries to teach her how to expand her mind. So she goes to classes for persuasionists, and they have a lot of other similar classes and they also do meditation, because they need to learn how to be at peace in their own mind and set up defenses. So they learn both to defend themselves against persuasion and to press their will onto other people, or put their will onto other people. And Lennon has a special ability that few of the people there has, which is that she can open gates. So she's called a gatekeeper, and so it's a kind of a battle between what does she want, what does the school want, and they don't give her much information. they just, you know, try to persuade her without her knowing to go their way, the way that they want to go. And it's an interesting book, but I think it's an interesting book because it opened up so many questions and made me reflect over things during, but also after. During the book, I mainly tried to just enjoy it and not feel stressed about finishing it in time. So, but it has opened up a lot of questions about life, about philosophy, like philosophical questions afterwards, and so it's really interesting in that way. And I kind of wish it was a series or a duology, because I think there are space for it to become a duology. It had a somewhat good ending. I'm not upset about the ending, but I would have also liked it for if it had like a cliffhanger. I could see like 3 different ways it could have a cliffhanger for a follow-up in a duology. So I think that would have been nice if it had been, because there is so much more potential within the scope of the book for it to be another book as well, with maybe a novella, because I don't know exactly. I'm not the author, so I don't know what story I would put in the second book, but like the main plot of the story. Because the main plot of the story in this book is her going to the school, learning to be a persuasionist, and her way of getting there, and what is a gatekeeper, how is that gonna work, what does she need to learn, and why are they doing this and this and that. And the ending has a real twist to it that is really intriguing. So I enjoyed the book. That's why I'm giving it a 4-star. I really enjoyed the book, and the setting of the book did remind me of the Scholarman series. In the way, it's like a similar, like the school is set in this vacuum of space that is created to place it there and hold it there, and there are like scientific laws for keeping it in place, and it's kind of similar in that way to the Scholarmans, and that they're not stuck at Drayton, but they are not supposed to go outside of Drayton unless they are really top tier students that have privileges. So it had some similarities in that way, and I could also see some similarities in the energies, not the personality, but something about the energies between the main character in the Skullman series and the main character in this one, which I think is what made me frustrated. And reading the book, there were so many times where I was like, girl, just you know, and at times I was like, why am I reading this? She's so frustrating. She's just so self-destructive. And one thing that she did that really annoyed me was how she always questioned other people's motives. And that's the same as what I first found frustrating in the Scholarman series. That the main character really feels like entitled to all the information, but also at the same time question people's intentions, and they were like, she was like expecting to be treated badly, and she was expecting for people to not like her, and that makes her very lonely. And in the Scholarman series, that was a trilogy, there were like 3 books in which there was a progress of the main character and her relationships, and that's something I would like to have seen in this book as well. And that's why I think that's one of the reasons I think there are potential for more books, and for this to be a duology or something like that. There are potential for, you know, personal development, and I really enjoy that in a book. But the main thing I disliked that makes this just a 4-star There was something about the way it was written at times that I really didn't enjoy. There were some like there were literal repetitions. Like on one page, the author repeats the same sentence twice, and I'm like, there are other ways to say this. You don't have to use the exact same sentence over and over, and that kind of bugs me. So there are two main reasons this is a 4-star. There's something about the writing that just felt a bit off. In the writing style, it did not look like the Skullman series, which is both good and bad. I enjoyed the Skullman series, but there were elements of that were like very train of thought and just never ending, and several pages of just explanations. This book was more showing than telling. The Skullman series were at times more telling than showing when it came to like the world building and that sort of thing. In this book, we follow Lennon all the way through the book, so we learn about the world building when she does, and that it can be kind of frustrating. Most of all, it adds to the frustration that I feel over her, because I don't feel like I need to know everything at once. I'm more of a easygoing kind of person that's like, oh, it is what it is, and I enjoy like fantastical worlds and discovering them bit by bit. But she was so frustrated that I became frustrated, and I ended up projecting that onto her because I was like, why do you need to know everything? So and that included like other people's lives. That she said that people were lying all the time, and I recognize now that she was lied to early in her life, so she must have been. But there were some things that just didn't really add up, because she was acting as if though she had been mistreated, she had been lied to her entire life, etc. But it didn't seem like she had. Her family, you didn't get to know her family enough to understand if that was warranted or not. But she acted like she had been really traumatized and had the worst childhood ever, and therefore expected her adult life to be the same. And every time someone withheld information, I thought, well, it's their information, it's theirs to share when they want to share it. You're not entitled to other people's personal information. And she was there like, oh, you lied to me, to especially towards Dante, but also towards other people. Why did you lie to me? And I was like, they didn't lie to you, dude. They just didn't tell you their whole life story the first time you met them. Could you just not? And I'm just gonna end this rant by saying that they smoked. That was my least favorite part of the book. Like from the first page on, almost, or at least the first chapter. They smoked. They smoked and they smoked and they smoked and they smoked and they smoked. And I don't think smoking as something leisurely has a place in a book written in the 21st century. I really don't. Absolutely not one that's written past 2020. It's so mind-boggling to me. And I was waiting for it to be handled in a better way all the way through the book. I was waiting for them to maybe give an explanation to why they were smoking, and like a logical explanation within the world building. Because there were, at one point, one of the other students said, well, that's why because Lennon had an experience with other substances that made her almost go psychotic and expanded her mind, and they used that in the story. And another guy says, well, that's why people smoke so much. But they didn't smoke anything, they didn't smoke weed or anything. And he was like, that's why we smoke so much, because it enhances the abilities. And I was like, nah, dude, nah. it felt like the author just planted that there to have a reason, but it didn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense when you know about the herbs and whatever they were smoking. It doesn't make sense in our world, in this world, and the author didn't do enough to explain why it would have made sense in that world. So that was just like thrown. I think it felt like it was thrown in there, and I have no idea why they smoked so much. It was like everywhere all the time, and the only time someone critiqued the smoking was Lennon's sister at one point saying, "You started smoking again," and it literally said that she said it without judgment, and I was like, why? Why? Please say it with judgment. Please just question it. And they didn't even. They talked about Lennon's different like tendencies towards self-destruction and all, and it didn't even come up in that regard. And I was like, just. So that's one thing I didn't enjoy at all, and I really questioned the author for it. And like halfway through the book, I was like, this is gonna get a 3-star tops, maybe 2.5. I was kind of like, I am enjoying it. I won't regret reading it, so probably a 3-star. But this takes it down a notch. And then the second half of the book, the story really came to life a bit more, and more things happened. Pieces fell into place, etc. And it picked up pace in a way that I enjoyed. So I was like, okay, this is gonna get a higher rating, but I can't give it a 5-star when they're smoking all the time. It doesn't have a place, especially when it wasn't explained. If the author, that I'm not sure if Alexis is man, woman, or non-binary, but the author could have put it more into like the world building, like this is something that they all do because the herb or whatever has this effect in this world. That's the way it is, and that's why she's put it there. But even if she had, I would probably not have liked it, because I think she could have used something else, Yeah, she could have used something else to make them get there. I don't enjoy when authors put a substance abuse or use in a story ever, unless it is like in the Addicted series. It's something that they try to overcome, and they work towards overcoming it, and it's a part of the journey, the personal arc of the people involved to overcome the substance abuse and use. And that's one, because that's kind of the way you should do it. So I didn't really I didn't enjoy that part of it. So it's a reluctant 4-star. If it didn't have the smoking, it would have probably been a 4.5, not a 5-star, because I don't think I would reread it at all. But I would like a continuation, so 4.5. But because of the smoking, it's a reluctant 4. And now that I'm talking about it, I almost want to change it to 3.5. But I'm probably gonna give it a 4-star on Goodreads. So because there are no half stars there. So yeah. And now I realize that I'm gonna save the library haul for my TBR video, because I have talked about this book for 24 minutes now, or 20 minutes, and yeah, and it was worth it. I'm gonna call this video a rant. And but I have done my best not to spoil the personal development too much, not to spoil the journey of the book or the story. So if you can overlook the smoking, if you're not bothered by that, you will probably enjoy this a lot if you enjoyed the Scholarman series, if you enjoy dark academia with a bit of a fantasy, magical realism twist to it. Because there are no the magic in this are related to the gates and somewhat to their telepathic abilities, but there aren't that much magic or fantasy within this. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. So I hope you enjoy this at least as much as I did. And it was worth reading. I just wanna hit, every time I read about the smoking part, I wanted to take the book and hit the author over the head and be like, why? So yeah, thank you for watching. If you watched this far, give me like a moth or a butterfly emoji for the cover, and it really does have a place in the book, so I like this cover because of that. It does have a place in the book, literally. So yeah, so that's the way it goes. I'm just gonna put it there. So thank you for watching, have a nice day and happy reading. Shingling.